There's a place beyond the edges of every map, where the waves whisper secrets older than time itself. A place where the air shimmers with the weight of forgotten magic, and the very light seems to hold its breath. Tonight, we're stepping into that world, the Undying Lands, a realm of eternal twilight and untold mysteries. Whether you're curled up under blankets or drifting off beneath a sky full of stars, we'd love to know where you're listening from and what time your journey into rest begins. Let us know in the comments below, because every story is richer when shared. Picture this: a lone elf, their cloak frayed from centuries of wandering, standing at the edge of a shore they never thought they'd reach. The salt-kissed wind carries the faintest melody, a song woven into the fabric of the land itself. It calls to them, promising peace, an end to longing. But the path ahead isn't just golden shores and gentle light. The Undying Lands guard their secrets fiercely, and the mist that curls around the elf's boots holds more than just dew. It holds trials, whispers of choices yet to be made. This isn't just a journey across the sea. It's a journey into the heart of what it means to let go. Close your eyes for a moment and listen. Can you hear it? The distant cry of gulls, the sigh of waves against ancient stone. This is where myths breathe, where every shadow could be a memory or a warning. The elf hesitates, fingers brushing the tattered map in their hand, a relic of a life they're about to leave behind. What would it feel like to step into a land where time doesn't touch you? To walk among legends, not as a traveler, but as someone who belongs? That's the question we'll explore together tonight, as we unravel the story of the Undying Lands, a tale of courage, surrender, and the quiet magic that waits just beyond the horizon. So settle in, let the weight of the day fade away, and let's begin. The white sand crunches softly beneath the elf's boots, each step lighter than the last, as if the land itself is easing their burdens. Yet with every breath of salt-kissed air, the weight of another choice presses down the faces of those left behind, flash like sparks in the dusk. Laughter around campfires, hands clasped in solemn oaths, silent graves beneath foreign stars. The waves don't just whisper, they echo, a chorus of voices, some joyful, some grieving, all asking the same unspoken question: how can you rest while we still fight? A gust of wind stirs the silver leaves overhead, and the elf freezes. That wasn't just the breeze. Something moves in the dappled shadows between the trees. A flicker of gold, a glint of watchful eyes. No threat, not yet, but presence. The Undying Lands don't greet visitors with open arms. They test. They weigh. The unseen watcher isn't here to guide or hinder, but to witness. Will this weary traveler turn back toward the storms of Middle-earth, or press forward into the unknown calm? The elf's fingers twitch toward the empty scabbard at their side. Old habits. Here, there are no battles to wage, no blades to raise, only the relentless quiet, the unbearable lightness of a world untouched by war. It's terrifying in its own way. Peace isn't just a gift, it's a reckoning. What does a warrior become when the fighting ends? The answer lingers in the rustling leaves, the sighing tide, the patient gaze of whatever waits just beyond sight. This isn't just a shore, it's a threshold, and crossing it means leaving more than footprints in the sand. The path ahead shimmers like a mirage, the trees bending inward as if to listen. Then, without sound or warning, the air thickens, and there, where no figure stood a heartbeat before, an old wanderer leans on a gnarled staff. Their cloak is the color of storm clouds at dusk, their eyes 2 points of light in a face carved by time. The elf's breath catches. This is no mere watcher. This is one of the Mayar, the ancient spirits who shaped the world before the first dawn. Why do you seek the Undying Lands? The voice is soft but unyielding, like wind through bare branches. It's not a challenge, not yet. It's a key, turning in a lock the elf didn't know existed. The question lingers, heavier than it seems. Not how they came here, or what they wish to find, but why. The elf's hands tighten. The truth rises like a tide. Not for glory, not for rest, but because there was nowhere left but forward. The Mayar waits. The silence stretches, taut as a bowstring. Then, with a sigh like shifting sand, they speak again. Show me the wound that brought you here. Not a demand, but an invitation, one that makes the elf's chest ache. The greatest sacrifice isn't always the loudest. Sometimes it's the one whispered in the dark, the choice that leaves no monument behind. The elf's gaze drops to their hands, still scarred from a battle fought centuries ago, and the words come unbidden. A confession of the moment. They sheathe their sword to carry a dying friend instead of pressing onward. Victory slipped away that day, and with it, the trust of their kin. The air grows thick with the scent of smoke and iron, the past unfolding around them like a scroll. But the Mayar doesn't flinch. And what did it teach you? The question strikes deeper than any blade. The elf falters. Was it worth it? The friend faded anyway. The war raged on, and the elf walked alone ever after. Yet here, in the hush of the Undying Lands, the answer comes clear as starlight, that some oaths are written in the heart, not in blood. A slow nod. The old wanderer steps aside, the path ahead brightening, but their eyes hold a warning. Remember this when the peace feels like a cage. The trial isn't over. It's only just begun. The air shivers as the elf's confession lingers, and suddenly, the forest is no longer just trees and twilight. The trunks twist into familiar shapes, shoulders hunched in laughter, hands outstretched in battle, faces frozen in final moments. Ghosts, not the specters of legend, but something sharper. Memories given form, each one a mirror reflecting the elf's own unspoken grief. A figure steps forward, boots silent on the moss. The human's armor is still splintered from the blow that took their life, their eyes holding not accusation, but a quiet, unbearable understanding. You could have saved me, the human says, though their voice is softer than the elf remembers. Not a taunt, a fact. The elf's throat tightens. They've carried this moment for ages, replaying every misstep, the hesitation, the diverted blade, the seconds lost that cost everything. But here, in the Undying Lands, time doesn't blur the edges of regret. It sharpens them. The elf's hands rise, trembling, not to reach for a weapon, but to grasp at empty air. I tried, they whisper. The words taste like ash. The human tilts their head, sunlight glinting through their translucent form. I know, they reply. But trying wasn't the promise. The words land like a stone in still water. The elf had sworn to protect, not just to fight. Oaths aren't measured in effort, but in outcomes. The realization burns, but the ghost doesn't flinch. They extend a hand, not to chastise, but to offer release. Tell me you're sorry, the human murmurs. Then let me go. The elf's breath hitches. Apology is a fragile bridge between guilt and grace. To cross it means admitting failure, yes, but also something far more terrifying, that the past can't be rewritten, only honored. The elf could turn away, cloak themselves in familiar remorse, let it fuel them as it always has. But the Undying Lands don't reward stubbornness, they demand truth. A shudder runs through the trees as the elf sinks to their knees. I'm sorry, they say, the words cracking open something ancient and raw. I'm so sorry. The human smile is weary but warm, like dawn after a long night. Their form begins to dissolve, not into darkness, but into light golden, weightless. As the last shimmer fades, the path ahead shifts, the tangled underbrush parts, revealing not the smooth white sand of the shore, but a narrow trail winding upward into the hills. The air hums with a new question. What will you carry forward, now that you've laid this down? The elf stands, legs unsteady but resolve clear. The trial isn't about punishment. It's about weight, and for the first time in centuries, they feel lighter. The path narrows suddenly, the trees parting to reveal a bridge so thin, it seems woven from spider silk and starlight. Below it, the chasm yawns wide, its depths hidden by swirling mist that carries voices, fragments of laughter, sobs, pleas in languages even the elf's ancient ears can't place. The bridge of shadows doesn't just span space, it spans time. Every plank is a moment, a choice, and some vanish the instant doubt flickers across the traveler's face. The elf takes the first step. The wood holds firm, humming faintly beneath their weight, but the second step, hesitation. A whisper from the mist below, you left us behind. The plank dissolves like smoke. The elf's stomach lurches as their foot finds empty air, but they recover, pressing forward. The bridge responds to resolve, not strength. Third step, fourth, the voices grow louder, not angry, but aching. Remember us. Then halfway across, a cry splits the air, clear, desperate, present. A child's voice, trapped in the mist below. Help me. The elf freezes. This isn't a memory. This is now a test, surely. But what if it isn't? The chasm's whispers rise, taunting. You couldn't save them then. Can you save this one now? The elf's hands grip the rope rails, knuckles white. Forward means safety, the shore so close. But the child's sobs twist something deep inside, an old wound ripped open. A plank vanishes, then another. The bridge is unraveling, reacting to their indecision. The elf looks down into the mist and sees nothing. No child, no hands reaching up. Just the abyss, hungry and endless. But the voice comes again, weaker this time. Please, the choice isn't between courage and fear. It's between two kinds of courage. The kind that walks away from a cry for help, and the kind that leaps without knowing if the fall will end. The elf's breath steadies. They kneel, fingers brushing the edge of the bridge. I'm here, they call into the void, not a promise to save, but to try. The mist shudders, for a heartbeat, silence. Then a single plank materializes, not ahead, but below, jutting into the darkness. The elf doesn't hesitate. They swing down, boots finding the narrow wood, arms outstretched for balance. The bridge above trembles, more planks dissolving. There's no going back. Only down. The voice guides them now, not pleading, but steady. Closer. Step by step, the elf descends into the mist, the air thickening with the scent of damp earth and old stories. Then a hand grasps theirs, small, warm, real. The mist parts, revealing not a child, but a figure cloaked in starlight, their eyes holding the weight of countless crossroads. You chose to listen, they murmur, even when it cost you the path. The elf's chest tightens. This was never about rescue. It was about attention. The Undying Lands don't reward those who rush toward peace without hearing the cries they leave behind. The figure squeezes their hand once, then fades, leaving only a new path, this one leading not up, but deeper in, where the shadows are softer and the light waits, patient as dawn. The air grows thick with the scent of blossoms as the elf steps beyond the bridge, their feet sinking slightly into soft, moss-covered earth. The garden of whispers unfolds around them, petals glowing faintly in the twilight, stems swaying as if stirred by unseen breath. But it's the sound that stops them cold, not wind, not water, voices, dozens, hundreds, threaded together in a low, mournful harmony. The flowers aren't just singing. They're remembering. Each bloom holds a name, a story, a life that crossed into the west and left echoes behind. A daisy brushes the elf's fingertips, and suddenly they're not standing in a garden at all. They are on a ship, the deck slick with rain, a human's hand clenched in theirs as the sea swallows the horizon. Tell them I made it, the voice murmurs, not from the past, but from the flower itself. The vision vanishes as quickly as it came, leaving the elf's palm tingling. This isn't mere memory, it's a gift, a chance to hear the words left unsaid, to carry messages that never reach the shore. The temptation to kneel, to press their ear to every blossom, is overwhelming, but the light is fading, the petals dimming as shadows stretch long across the path. A rustle of fabric breaks the spell. The elf turns to see a figure draped in silver robes, their face obscured by a hood, their hands outstretched in offering. Rest here, they murmur, voice smooth as still water. The night is long, and the journey longer. Their fingers uncurl to reveal a single fruit, golden, perfect, its skin shimmering with dew. The elf's stomach twists with sudden hunger. It's been days since they last ate, weeks since food tasted like anything but ashes. But something flickers in the figure's gaze as they extend the gift. Not malice, not deceit, but something far subtler. A challenge. The garden holds more than whispers. It holds choices. To taste the fruit would be to surrender to the comfort of stories, to lose themselves in the lives of others rather than face their own. The elf's fingers hover, aching to take it, but the wind shifts, carrying a fragment of song from deeper in the garden, a melody they recognize, their own voice, younger, brighter, singing a promise under different stars. The realization strikes like a bell. These aren't just the voices of the departed. They're the voices of those who lingered too long. The silver-robed figure sighs, their hood tipping slightly, as if nodding in reluctant respect. You hear it then, they say, withdrawing the fruit. This garden is a threshold, not a home. Their sleeve brushes a nearby vine, and the leaves recoil, revealing thorns hidden beneath the softness. The path ahead darkens, but not with the gentle cloak of night. With something older, quieter. The true test isn't crossing the Undying Lands. It's resisting the urge to stay. The trees part without sound, revealing a pool so still it could be glass. Moonlight spills across its surface, but the reflection isn't the elf's weary face. It's 1,000 fractured possibilities. Scenes flicker like firelight. A cottage by the sea, hands stained with paint instead of blood. A library where the only battles are waged in ink. Peace. Real, aching peace. But then the water shivers, and the visions shift smoke over Minas Tirith. The glint of orc blades in the dark. A familiar voice, screaming their name across a battlefield. Middle-earth, bleeding, needing, the elf's breath catches. This isn't just foresight. It's a choice, carved in liquid light. One path leads to rest, the other to ruin. Or is it the opposite? Their fingers hover above the water, trembling. The surface dimples at their near touch. The image is flaring brighter. Valinor's golden shores now show an elf kneeling alone in endless gardens. Their eyes hollow with a loneliness no paradise can fill. Across the pool, Middle-earth's war-torn fields transform, not into victory, but into a rebuilt world where laughter rings in taverns they'll never visit. The visions aren't just futures, they're tests. What hurts worse, leaving or being left behind? A horn blast shatters the silence, distant, urgent. Time twists like a thread pulled taut. The pool darkens, the choice is hardening. No more glimpses, no more maybes. Just two roads and the weight of what grows in the space between them. The elf's hand clenches. To touch the water is to choose. To step away is to let fate decide. But the horn sounds again, closer now, and the pool's edges begin to frost over. The mirror of dawn won't wait forever. Dawn, after all, is just another word for beginning. Somewhere beyond the trees, a branch snaps, not a threat. A reminder, the world moves with or without you. The elf's fingers brush the water, and for a heartbeat, everything stops. The pool doesn't show an answer. It shows a hand, gripping theirs from beneath the surface. Their own hand, but different, stronger, sure, a self they could still become. Then the water goes dark, and the choice is made. Not in the vision, in the reaching. The path ends abruptly at a fork. Two gates, utterly unlike. The first blazes with golden light, its archway carved with runes that hum with power, each symbol a promise, rest. Peace home. The second is half buried in ivy, its stone cracked and moss eaten, as if the land itself forgot it existed. Between them, a thrush struggles in the dirt, one wing bent at a cruel angle, its chest heaving with panicked breaths. The elf freezes. Time doesn't stretch here. It fractures. In one breath, they see the bird's dark eyes reflecting their own exhaustion. In the next, the golden gate's light pulses like a heartbeat, urging them forward. Almost there, but the thrush's next gasp is wet with pain, and the sound lodges in the elf's throat like a hook. This isn't just a choice between paths. It's a choice between who they were and who they are becoming. Kneeling, they reach for the bird, then stop. The ivy on the forgotten gate trembles, though there's no wind. A whisper slithers through the leaves. You fought so hard, walk on, you've earned it. The voice is honey smooth, soothing, but the words curdle in the air. The thrush goes still, watching, not pleading, waiting. Here's the truth the golden light won't say. Some trials aren't about strength, they're about attention. The Undying Lands don't test your might, they test your gaze. Will you look away from suffering when paradise is in reach? The elf's hands hover. A healer's instinct wars with a warrior's impatience. But the bird doesn't flinch. It chirps, weak but clear, and the sound unravels something in the elf's chest. They scoop the thrush up, cradling it against their cloak. The moment their fingers brush its feathers, the golden gate dims, not vanishing, just shifting, its light thinning to reveal what was hidden beneath. A door of polished bone, the runes now spelling different words. What you take, you must return. The overgrown gate, though, its vines slither back, the cracks in the stone sealing themselves with a sound like sighing. The archway frames not a path, but a person, a figure with eyes like smoldering embers, their smile too wide for any human face. Ah, they murmur, you saw. The thrush stirs in the elf's hands, its wings straightening as if by magic. The figure inclines their head. Now you see us, too. The guardians of the Undying Lands aren't just keepers of gates. They are mirrors, and the elf's reflection grins back, sharp with a truth they can't unsee. Mercy isn't a detour. It's the only road in. The hall unfolds like a dream, made solid, high ceilings, arched like the ribs of some great, slumbering beast, tapestries woven with threads of starlight, swaying in an unfelt breeze. The air hums with voices, laughter, the clink of goblets, but the elf's steps falter. These faces, they know them, not from songs or scrolls, but from shared firesides, from battles fought shoulder to shoulder. Yet here, time hasn't touched them. No scars, no shadows, only eyes that hold too much gentleness for warriors who once knew war. A chalice appears in the elf's hands, heavy with wine, darker than pomegranate seeds. The first sip burns sweet, unspooling memories like ribbons, childhood laughter in Linden's orchards, the scent of rain on summer grass. But the second sip is colder. The edges of those recollections blur, the pain leaching away like ink in water. The elf gasps, gripping the cup tighter. It's not just sorrow fading, it's the weight of every oath, every vow, every hand they once clasped in the dark. Across the table, an elder elf leans forward, their voice honeyed with pity. Why cling to wounds that no longer serve you? The question hangs like smoke. The others nod, their smiles serene, their hands empty of weapons or worry. But the elf's fingers twitch toward the sword at their hip, the leather grip worn smooth by centuries of use. It's not just a blade, it's a covenant. The chalice trembles. To drink deep would be to forget the human who died with their name on their lips, the dwarf who carved their initials into the elf's shield as a joke, the mortal child who pressed a daisy into their palm before the siege. Not just the grief would vanish, but the love that made the grief matter. The hall's warmth turns stifling. The elves' eyes gleam with something between sympathy and sorrow. They don't understand. How could they? Their hands have never held dust. A whisper cuts through the murmurs, not from the feast, but from the sword itself. Not a voice, a vibration, a memory of steel singing in the wind before battle. The elf's throat tightens. They set the chalice down, the wine inside sloshing like a tide refused. The elder elf sighs, but doesn't protest. Some choices can't be unmade. Some bonds can't be dissolved, even by the Undying Lands. The chalice shatters against the stone floor, its dark wine spreading like spilled ink, and with it, the hall itself unravels. Silk tapestries dissolve into mist, laughter twists into howling wind, and suddenly, the elf is standing not in a place of warmth, but in the eye of a storm. Rain lashes their face, cold as forgotten steel. Thunder doesn't just roll, it speaks, each peal a voice they've spent centuries silencing. Shadows coil from the ground like smoke, taking shape with terrible clarity. Here, the comrade whose last words they couldn't hear over the roar of battle. There, the village they arrived too late to save, its name now ash on the wind. Each shadow steps closer, not with menace, but with the unbearable weight of unfinished business. The elf's first instinct is to run, but the storm has no edges. No escape, only the reckoning they've carried like a second sword. The first shadow reaches out, its fingers brushing the elf's wrist. No wound follows, just a searing memory, the scent of burning fields, the choked cry of a horse as it fell. You hesitated. The shadow murmurs, not accusing, just stating. The elf's breath hitches. Truth isn't a blade. It's the hand that guides it. Yes, they whisper back. The admission cracks the shadow apart like old parchment, its fragments scattering into the rain. One by one, they face the specters, a child's unfinished lullaby. A promise sworn over a grave they never found. Each confession is a knot loosened, a weight lifted until the last shadow steps forward. This one wears no mask, no borrowed grief. It's them, younger, yes, but with eyes already ancient. The storm stills around the pair, the rain hanging suspended in midair. You thought you could outrun me, the shadow says, smiling with the elf's own lips. But I'm not regret. I'm the part of you that refuses to change. The words land like a blow. The elf stares at their double, at the stubborn set of that familiar jaw, the way their hand still twitches toward a sword, even in this place beyond battles. The storm wasn't sent to punish them. It was sent to wake them. Lightning splits the sky, illuminating a path forward, not away from the shadows, but through them. The elf lifts their chin. Then let's begin, they say, not to the storm, not to the past, but to the self they've carried all this way. The shadow nods, steps aside, and the rain finally falls, not as a deluge, but as a cleansing. The storm's last drops fall like silver needles, and when the air clears, the world has reshaped itself. Towering hedges rise on all sides, their leaves edged with starlight, their branches woven so tightly, not even shadow slips between them. Above, the sky burns with constellations no elf has ever named, swords without hilts. Crowns cracked down the middle, a harp with half its strings severed. The labyrinth doesn't just sprawl, it breathes, its walls shifting ever so slightly with each step the elf takes, as if guiding or testing. The first turn reveals a glade drenched in golden light, the air thick with the scent of apricots and laughter. A memory, vivid as life, the elf as a child, barefoot in the grass, their mother's hands braiding flowers into their hair. The joy is so sharp it aches. But the path narrows the moment they reach out, the image fraying like smoke. The labyrinth's rule is clear. You cannot linger in the past, only acknowledge it. The next corridor winds downward, the hedges darkening to thorn. Here, the memory is colder. A moonlit battlefield, the elf kneeling beside a fallen comrade, their hands stained with blood that will never wash away. The air hums with unspoken words, with the weight of all the things they wish they'd said, but the labyrinth doesn't punish. It presents. Each twist is a thread pulled from the tapestry of their life, asking only this: do you still clutch this pain like a treasure, or can you lay it down? Deeper in, the stars grow brighter, their light pooling in the elf's palms as if offering direction. But the true guide isn't overhead. It's the faint, familiar tug in their chest, pulling them toward the labyrinth's heart. The door awaits there, smooth as bone, its surface etched with runes that shimmer when touched but offer no clue how to open. No handle, no lock, just silence. Then a whisper, not from the hedges but from within, a melody so old it feels like a heartbeat. The elf's lips part, but no sound comes. The song is there, buried beneath centuries of war and wandering, a lullaby their mother sang when the world was kinder. To sing it now would be to admit how much they've lost, how much they still long for. The door remains still, patient. The labyrinth's final lesson isn't about remembering. It's about reclaiming. The first note cracks like ice breaking in spring. The second is steadier. By the third, the hedges themselves seem to lean closer, their leaves rustling in harmony. The door doesn't swing open. It dissolves not into light or shadow, but into a path lined with faces, every soul the elf has mourned, every voice they've carried. They aren't specters, they're witnesses, and as the last note fades, the stars above rearrange themselves into a single, shining word, forward. The statue's outstretched hand might as well be a cliff's edge. Its fingers, worn smooth by centuries of weather, hover in silent expectation. The sword in the elf's grip isn't just steel, it's the weight of every dawn they've greeted with blood on their palms, every campfire where they sharpen the blade instead of sleeping. The first age lives in its scratches, its notches, the faintest stain near the hilt that no amount of scrubbing could erase. Handing it over isn't just surrender. It's amputation. A breeze stirs, carrying the scent of salt and something older memory, perhaps. The statue's hollow eyes seem to follow the elf's movements, though its face remains frozen. No judgment there, no pity, just patience, the kind that outlasts empires. The elf's fingers trace the sword's pommel, where a single sapphire glints, stolen from a dragon's hoard in another lifetime. They could walk away, turn back toward the labyrinth, the storm, the garden of whispers, but the air here is different, thicker, as if the Undying Lands themselves are waiting. The sword lifts, inch by inch, its tip trembling toward the statue's palm. The moment the steel grazes stone, a vibration thrums through the ground, not a sound, but a feeling, like the world exhaling. The statue's fingers twitch, not to grasp, but to receive, and suddenly, the choice isn't about the weapon, it's about the hand that held it. The elf's breath catches. This blade has been their compass, their shadow, their last tether to a self forged in fire. To let go is to step into a life where no one will know the weight of their scars. A whisper curls from the statue's lips, though its mouth doesn't move. You fear emptiness, it murmurs, but a sheath is not a prison, it's a promise. The words settle like dust on the elf's shoulders. They've spent so long believing the sword defined them: warrior, protector, survivor. Who are they without it? The answer isn't in the statue's grasp, but in the sudden lightness of their own fingers as the sword slips free, its weight vanishing into stone as effortlessly as a pebble dropped into deep water. The door groans open, revealing not an ending, but an echo, a shore where the waves don't crash but sing, and the elf steps forward, not unarmed but unburdened. The statue's empty hand remains outstretched behind them, a monument to all the things we leave behind to become who we're meant to be. The gangplank groans beneath the elf's weight, a sound like an old tree bending in the wind. The ship's deck is smoother than any they've touched before. Its wood pale as moonlight and warm as living flesh. At the prow, the captain waits, not with the stiff formality of a ruler, but with the quiet ease of someone who's watched centuries slip past like tides. Their face is both strange and familiar, etched with lines that might be laughter or sorrow, or simply time itself. When they speak, their voice doesn't echo. It settles. You've carried your ghosts long enough, they say, not as judgment, but as fact. Behind the elf, the shore is already blurring, the undying lands folding in on themselves like a map returning to parchment. But it's not the golden light or the singing trees that linger in their mind. It's the weight of the sword they left behind, the hilt still warm from their grip. The captain follows their gaze and smiles, though their eyes hold something deeper than amusement. Regret is a curious thing, they murmur. It clings tightest to what we never truly had. The words hang between them, sharp and soft as sea foam. A gust fills the sails, sudden and sure, and the ship lurches forward. The elf stumbles, but the deck steadies beneath them, as if the wood itself remembers how to hold the unsteady. The captain doesn't reach out. They don't need to. The lesson here isn't about being caught. It's about learning to stand when the world moves beneath you. The horizon splits open, not with dawn or dusk, but with a light that seems to rise from within the waves. The air thrums with a note too deep for hearing, a vibration that slips past skin and bone to hum against the soul. The elf's breath hitches. This isn't just a journey across water. It's a crossing from one kind of existence to another. The captain leans against the rail, their gaze fixed on the shimmering distance. They never tell you, they say, that peace isn't a place. It's a permission you give yourself. The ship crests a wave, and for a heartbeat, the elf sees it. Not the undying lands ahead, but Middle Earth behind, reduced to a smudge of green and gold. The side is a knife twisted gently between ribs. Beautiful, bittersweet. Then the wave falls, and the world rearranges itself. The past is gone. The future is a door swinging open. And the elf, they're neither lost nor found. They're simply here, salt on their lips and the sea's song in their ears, ready to learn what comes after the ending. The waves roll beneath the ship's hull, gentle as a lullaby, yet each crest feels like a question. Around the elf, other passengers murmur of healing orchards and shores where pain is only a story to be told, not carried. But the horizon ahead holds no answers, only the endless shimmer of a sea that refuses to reflect their doubts. Then, a presence, a shift in the air, like the moment before a storm breaks. The elf turns, and there, wrapped in a cloak the color of forgotten storms, stands a figure they haven't seen since the fall of Gondolin. Time hasn't touched them, not the way it should have. Their eyes still hold the same fire, though now it's banked, quiet. "You look tired," the gray-cloaked one says, voice rough with disuse. A laugh bubbles up in the elf's throat, sharp as broken glass. Tired, they've been tired since the first age, but the words stick, because this isn't just any traveler. This is the one who vanished into the smoke of a burning city, the one they'd carved onto their sword's hilt as a reminder. Alive here, the silence between them stretches, taut as a bowstring. There's too much to say, and nothing that won't cut. The gray cloak shifts, revealing a hand still missing 2 fingers, lost to an orc's axe. A relic of the past, just like the elf's own scars. "You were supposed to be dead," the elf finally manages, The figure's lips quirk. I was, then I wasn't. Simple, impossible. Around them, the ship's timbers creak, the sound echoing like old bones settling. The gray-cloaked one leans against the rail, staring not at the undying lands, but back the way they came. Do you ever wonder, they murmur, if we're running towards something, or just away? The question hangs, heavier than the sword the elf no longer carries. Because the truth is, they don't know, neither of them does. The figure reaches into their cloak, pulling out a small, weathered book. Its pages filled with sketches of faces the elf recognizes too well. The fallen, the lost. I couldn't forget, the figure says softly. Not even here. And suddenly, the elf understands. This voyage isn't about leaving the past behind. It's about learning how to hold it without letting it drown you. The ship lurches, a wave breaking against the bow, and for a heartbeat, the elf sees it. Not the undying lands ahead, but Middle Earth behind, its mountains reduced to shadows. The gray-cloaked one follows their gaze and sighs. We don't get to choose what we carry, they say, only how we carry it. The wind picks up, salt-stung and insistent, as if the sea itself is urging them forward. Some reunions are for closure. This one feels like a mirror. The ship's hull scrapes against the dock with a sound like a sigh, the wood groaning as if reluctant to release its passengers. Twilight hangs thick over the harbor, not the fleeting dusk of Middle Earth, but an eternal, honeyed gloaming that softens every edge. The air tastes of nectar and something deeper, older, the scent of blossoms no mortal tongue could name. For the first time since stepping aboard, the elf hesitates. This isn't fear, it's the weight of finality. A figure emerges from the amber-lit mist, their robes the color of weathered parchment, their hands clasped in silent welcome. No words pass their lips, yet the invitation is clear, but the elf's feet remain rooted to the deck. Behind them, the sea stretches back toward the world they've known, its waves whispering secrets only they can hear. And then a voice, not from the shore, not from memory, but threading through the salt-heavy air like a needle through silk, familiar as their own breath. A voice they'd know across centuries, across battlefields, across the chasm of death itself. It calls their name without sound, a tug in the chest, more than the ears. Home, the word rises unbidden, bitter and sweet as unripe fruit. Not the home they left behind, nor the one awaiting on these shores, but something else entirely, a choice wrapped in twilight. The guide watches, patient as stone, their eyes holding neither judgment nor urgency. They understand what the elf only now realizes. Some arrivals are also departures. The wind shifts, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth, Middle Earth's breath, reaching across the waves. The voice comes again, clearer this time, threading through the elf's ribs like a hook. Turn back now, and the undying lands will fade like a dream upon waking. Step forward, and the call will dissolve into the hush of eternal twilight. Somewhere beyond the mist, a bell tolls, low and resonant. Not a summons, a reminder. Time doesn't flow here as it does elsewhere, but even in paradise, moments have weight. The elf's fingers curl, nails biting into palms. Not in anger, in awakening. The voice calling them isn't from the past. It's the future, the self they might still become if they dare to turn away from peace. The dock creaks. The choice isn't between shores, it's between versions of their own soul. The air stills as the elf's words hang between them, not a plea, but a declaration. The guide's smile doesn't waver, though their eyes darken like pools under gathering clouds. You would trade eternity for a world that forgets. The question isn't an accusation. It's a key turning in a lock the elf didn't know they carried. Around them, the harbor's golden mist thickens, as if the very air resists their choice. But the elf doesn't look back toward the ship, or the shore, or the waiting light. They look down at their own hands, still calloused from a sword they no longer bear. The Undying Lands promised rest, yes, but not the kind they needed. Some wounds don't heal in stillness. They heal in the doing, in the messy, mortal work of tending to what's left behind. The guide's sigh is the sound of a page turning, final and inevitable. You understand the cost. The elf nods, not just immortality, but memory. Those who leave these shores become myths even to those who once knew them. Their deeds blur into legend, their faces fade like ink in rain. Yet when they lift their chin, their voice is steady. Let me be forgotten, but let me go. The guide's fingers brush the elf's forehead, light as a falling leaf. For a heartbeat, the world fractures, not into pain, but into 1,000 maybes. A life where they stayed, growing quieter with each passing century, until their own reflection became a stranger. A life where they returned, only to watch everyone they loved crumble to dust. And then the touch withdraws. The ship's deck is solid beneath their boots again, salt spray sharp on their lips. Behind them, the undying lands dissolve into the horizon, not with a crash of waves, but with the soft sigh of a door closing. The wind carries no voices now, no whispers of what might have been, just the vast, aching silence of a choice made. And the elf, they stand at the prow, eyes fixed on the darkening east. Not toward home, toward what comes next. The soil beneath the elf's knees is damp with recent rain, cool and rich with the scent of turned earth and old roots. It smells like memory, like home. When they lift their head, the horizon stretches empty. No golden haze of the undying lands, no ship's silhouette against the setting sun. Only the wind, restless as ever, tugging at their cloak like a child demanding attention. A bird cries overhead, sharp and insistent. The elf's fingers dig into the dirt, not in anguish, but in grounding. This is what they chose, not an end, but a continuation. The weight of eternity might be gone, but the weight of the world remains. The crackle of distant fires, the murmur of rivers carrying stories downstream, the unyielding grip of a handshake between friends who have survived too much. Somewhere to the east, a village burns. Somewhere to the west, a child laughs. The elf stands, brushing soil from their palms. The absence of their sword still aches, a phantom limb, but their hands feel strangely light. Ready, the vow they whispered isn't just a promise to others. It's a covenant with themselves. To remember is to resist the slow erosion of time, to etch names into the bedrock of their being, so they never blur into legend. A twig snaps in the undergrowth. The elf doesn't reach for a weapon. They turn, slow and deliberate, to meet the gaze of a young scout, crouched in the ferns, their eyes wide with awe and something else recognition. You're them, aren't you? The scout breathes, the one who left and came back. The elf doesn't answer, not with words, but when they extend a hand to help the scout to their feet, the gesture says everything. The past isn't a chain. It's a compass, and the road ahead, it's waiting, The fire crackles, its orange glow painting the elf's face in flickering gold and shadow. Across the flames, the young traveler leans forward, their eyes wide with the hunger of someone hearing a story they've waited a lifetime to know. The elf's voice is softer now, worn smooth by years and wind, but the words still carry the weight of truth. The undying lands aren't a place you reach. They murmur, stirring the embers with a stick. They're a choice you make, or don't. A log shifts, sending up a shower of sparks that dance like distant stars. The traveler opens their mouth, to ask, to argue, but the elf shakes their head, smiling. They've seen that look before, the longing, the doubt, the fear that somewhere beyond the horizon, a better life is slipping away. Listen, the elf says, pointing upward. Those same stars shone over Valinor. They shine here. The difference isn't in the sky. It's in what you're willing to lay down to keep walking beneath them. Silence settles, thick with the scent of pine and burning oak. Somewhere in the darkness, an owl calls, its cry echoing the loneliness the elf once carried like a second cloak. But now the weight feels different, lighter, not because it's gone, but because they've learned to shoulder it without bending. The traveler fidgets, fingers twisting the hem of their tunic. Do you ever regret it? They blurt out. The elf exhales, slow and measured. The answer isn't simple. Some nights, when the ache of old wounds flares or the names of the lost rise like smoke in their throat, the undying lands whisper. Not as temptation, but as a question. Was it worth it? But then dawn comes, and with it, the scuff of boots on gravel as the village children race to greet them, or the weight of a friend's hand on their shoulder as laughter spills like wine around a shared meal. Regret, the elf tilts their head, watching the firelight catch in the traveler's eager eyes. No, but I've learned this. You don't find peace by arriving somewhere. You carve it out of the life you refuse to abandon. The wind shifts, carrying with it the faintest salt tang of the sea, not the roaring tides of the west, but the quiet sigh of a distant shore. The traveler's breath catches. They hear it too. The elf closes their eyes. Some bonds never break. Some loves never fade. And some journeys, they end exactly where they began, with a choice of fire and the stars watching, silent as saints. you.